Hello and welcome to Collaboration Global, and this is the podcast Being Human Hidden Depths. And I'm delighted to say we have one of our newer members, Louise Richardson. I want to say immediately Absafe because that's kind of the name that I hear in my mind as I'm talking about you. Louise, welcome to the community. It's lovely to have you here. First question, what made you get involved with Collaboration Global? What was your kind of tipping point?
As you know, that we've been a member of a Clubhouse event for a little while, and you're a member of that, and you get to know people, and it's all about relationships for me. And you definitely have an ethos that resonates quite deeply with me. It's all about how we work together, how we can make the world a better place, and we all have to start somewhere. So sometimes it's really good if you put yourself with a group of people that have similar values, because then you're able to discuss in an honest, open way things that may be bothering you, or things that can work, or share ideas, and you know they're going to be received and taken with the love and kindness they were given, and you know that they're going to go on and do great things. So it's about sharing ideas for the greater good. Just being with a great bunch of people that every time I've been on like a Collaboration Global either chat or the weekly meetings or the monthly meetings, I've literally learned something. And I think that's the gift. So it's not only the fact that you can share ideas or maybe discuss topics that wouldn't be discussed anywhere else. It's that it's done in a way that invites people to be the best people who they are, which allows your businesses to be the best that they can be. So it's moving away from that patriarchal, top down, this is how we're going to do it because this is the way it's always been done. And I know that I never really thought about it, but you were talking about it comes way back from military, how the military was organized, and I never really thought about that. And this is something I learned that day, and I went, I never really thought about that. But so it's learning new things, but also going, actually there's a different way to do it. What we're doing or what we've done in the past hasn't worked for the majority of people. So we need to do something, and I think Collaboration Global is the best way to start and look at the way that we can get people to rethink the way that business is done. That's why I joined.
Oh wow, I couldn't have put it better myself. that's absolutely perfect. I think it's a safe space. It's a place, as you say, to learn and learn from people that are really clever and doing what they absolutely love to do. So they've really gone into the nth degree of what they need to know, and being around those, rubbing shoulders with those kind of people, it can't help but rub off. But also one of the things I particularly like is you can muck up. Yeah. Because you've tried something and it didn't quite work. It's like, but there's other people who say, come on, I'll help you do it next time. Or come on, have you tried this? Or why don't you try that? Or you said you were going to do this. When are you going to do it? And it's like a little bit of a challenge and a little bit of a nudge and a push. And sometimes you go to master classes or training or whatever, and there is a facade in the room of I'm fine, everything's great, my business is fine. And you kind of know full well it's not always fine. And that feels like there's this pretense going on. But what I love about Collaboration Global is the authenticity of the people in the room. You're allowed to say if you've mucked up, you're allowed to say, I'm trying something new and I'm quite scared.
Yeah.
In fact, I've already said that recently. We've got an event going on next year. And last week I had the gremlins going full time in my head. You're never going to be able to do that. It's ridiculous. Why do you think you could possibly do that? Don't be, it's daft. And then on the other hand, my emotions are going, but you need to do this. It'll be amazing. And so I just went to the team and went, hey guys, I'm struggling here. And it was like, poof, this pillow of love picked me up and carried me through. And I'm like, why am I even doubting that we can do this? Of course we can do this.
You're definitely surrounded by people, including myself, that'll go, we can help, we can do this, we've got you. And there'll be times on this journey doing this event where things will go well and things won't, but you have almost a connection of people that can go, look, Jill, you're doing okay. It's okay that didn't work, but there's other options. Whatever doesn't work, there's always another option. I think that's what I want people to understand, is that you learn. And there's obviously very famous people like Dyson, the man that made the Dyson Hoovers, who said that he had to make, I'm exaggerating, like 3 billion prototypes before he found one that worked.
A lot, yeah.
And I know it's an exaggeration, but I think we don't celebrate that enough, because through those honest mistakes, we tend to learn the most, because it kind of makes us really sit down and think about what we actually want, how it's going to look, and how we can change the elements of that to make it better. So yeah, you've definitely got you've almost got your own cheerleading squad, Jill. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's true. And I think we all need that. Everybody needs that in life. It's good for your mental health, your emotional health, spiritual health, to connect with people at that level, rather than the facade that we're so used to. How are you? I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. But ask a second time. It's like, don't be nice to me. I can't keep it up for that much longer. It's all too much.
Yeah.
It's so true. So let's take you back, Louise. Let's find out a bit more about you. A lot of people I find that have discovered their purpose today and can look back on their life and go, oh, that's where it started from. So what was 8-year-old Louise like? What was your dream? Were you going to grow up and be a princess? Were you going to be a, I don't know, taxi driver? What was your kind of thing that, oh yeah, I love doing that. That's my thing. Ah, brilliant.
Yeah, I think,
you know, when people said to you, what are you going to do when you grow up, dear? What was your answer?
I think I probably wanted to do something arty. I think originally, I don't remember having a clear path. I remember when I was a little bit older, I wanted to be a police dog handler.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And then I didn't really kind of have any thoughts about what I wanted to do. But I've been to a family. My daughter got married, and so I was with my uncle Eddie. He's my favourite uncle, and my dad's one of 9. There's lots of them, and they all look the same, which is quite weird when they're all in the room together. And he remembers. He interestingly said to me, "I remember when you were about 8, Louise. You were always different." Now I hadn't really considered that, and I'm 50. So I hadn't really considered that I felt a bit different, but I hadn't considered that other people could see it. Because we're, you know, a product of the 70s and 80s, really, in terms of education and experiences, is that there was much more, I suppose, emphasis on conforming. You know, to step out of that little box was considered that you were definitely weird, or you were naughty, and I probably was always on the side of naughty, but not too naughty.
Yes, you got away with it.
I understood boundaries then. I understood limits mostly, where I could kind of push, and then I knew that I couldn't take it further. So I remember even as a probably young teenager, I knew the difference between getting expelled and not, I suppose. Where some of the kids I went to school with didn't understand those boundaries. So I remember that's probably what I remember most. But it's quite interesting hearing that from my uncle, you know, less than 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I remember thinking, oh, I didn't realize people could see it, because so that was quite powerful. It's interesting you said when you were about 8, so you always knew you were different. And I didn't have time to explore it with him actually, but it was quite interesting because he just turned 80, and he's really funny. And so I think I've always probably felt a little bit different. But I think we all feel different. So I think what I want to say to people is we all feel a bit different, and we need to celebrate that, but being mindful of other people as well, that you can't just do what you want and say what you want and be who you want. You can to a degree, but we have to be mindful of the communities that we live in, because I think, you know, if we all kind of are mindful of that, then we work better together. We can't just go and do you can't just go and do what you want. It doesn't matter how much you want to do that. There are consequences to behaviors. And I think I probably learned that quite young. But I don't ever remember really thinking, this is what I'm going to do. I remember thinking, I don't want to be kicked out of school today. and I'm not letting the headmaster cane me, is what I remember thinking.
Ooh,
yeah.
Wow.
I went to a Catholic school, so
I was just going to say you must have been one of the last schools in the country to.
Yeah, I was one of the last years, I think, that he went, I'm going to cane you. I went, oh, I don't think you are.
Bye.
Yeah, I'll see you in a bit. I'll see you tomorrow.
Isn't it interesting though, today with the world the way it is, we're moving now towards celebrating difference, rather than as we, you know, in our school days we were historically following in the Victorian era of schooling. We'd sit in rows, and it was to conform, and if you didn't conform you were physically punished, more mentally I think than anything by going through that. But also we just Well, I was a sort of goody two shoes, and I remember at my senior school, the teacher said to us once, me and my friend, "Oh, Gillian and Christine, could you please go and see the headmistress?" And we're like, "Why?" And they're like, "Sure, we'll see you. Just go down there." And as we went out, the rest of my class were like, "What have you done? What have you done?" Because we were relatively the best ones in the class, but our class were always on form report for being the naughtiest in the school. So I never got bullied because I was in the class with the bullies. And anyone that came against anyone in our class, my bullies kind of stood up. So I felt safe in that class.
Yeah, I get that.
But then being taken to the headmistress's office, I'm like, what have I done? So we're all the way down, me and Christine, like, what did you do? I haven't done anything. Have you done anything? I haven't done anything. And we're, so we're trying to get away with it. And we got in there and she said, I just wanted you to know that you are outstanding in what you've been doing in the past term. And we're really pleased with you and carry on. And I'm like, oh, thank you. We got out and we're like, oh, how are we going to go back in the class? What are we going to say? We've got to think of something. We can't say that we've just been, congratulated by headmistress. We'll be lynched. There's no way we could go back and say that. So we had to quickly work out a story of what, so that they were like, you got told off.
Yeah.
Gang then. So we were trying to conform with the people in that class.
That's very true, because we don't celebrate. Yeah, but to me, it would be the other way around. It'd be like, yeah, I'm here again. They'd be just like, you're off. Yeah, I'll be back in a bit. I'll just stand outside his office as a punishment. I spent sometimes more time in that corridor than I did in the class, but
I love it.
Yeah. So I think what we're describing is just difference and celebrating that it doesn't really matter how you start sometimes or what you feel that you are up against. There is always a way past it. And it's momentary. I mean, people still, I don't really talk about my school days a lot actually, because I've moved on, but I know a lot of people that are really still stuck in that narrative about what they received at school, which I always find a shame and quite interesting. So we're not the sum of those years, and we're not the sum because you grow, change, develop all the time. But I'm probably still a little bit naughty if I'm truly honest. And it's interesting. You go to events, and so my daughter was trying to describe me to one of her friends who was with another friend that knows me, and they said can you describe like Libby's mum? And so she just went, she's a contradiction. Like she can be like the funniest person but strict, which is true. I can be, the kindest person but say kind of stuff like I can be quite adamant about some things, She said you, and she called me unique, which is probably a really great compliment.
Yeah.
But it's interesting if you actually really honestly say to people like how describe me, because you've been 50 years in your skin, you kind of get used to yourself. So I'm used to me. And when you meet people, they're not used to you, and you're like, oh, you'll be okay. You'll get used to me. It'll be okay. It'll work. You'll get used to me. So yeah, that's been quite an interesting, interesting couple of weeks, really. Yeah.
I think it's good to look at every so often, because we were talking about this the other day at Collaboration Global. It's like, what are you people saying about you when you're not in the room? How do you appear? And we often talk about your being. Who are you being? What hat are you wearing? And are you the same being with your family as you are in your business, as you are with your parents even? And although we do change slightly, it's that authentic genuineness of who you are should be there when you leave the room, and people know what you're about. So for me, I kind of like, what you see is what you get. I'm not very good at keeping secrets. People don't tell me anything about Christmas because I can't hear it to myself. I get so excited about things. So it's like I can't pretend to be something that I'm not, because basically I'm too lazy. I can't do this. How's business, Jill? It's fine. If it's not fine, it's not fine. I'm going to tell you about it.
Yeah.
So it really is interesting. I love the description that you've got. You're unique and you're a contradiction. So that's what people are left with. And then there's power in that, isn't there? There's this power of like, don't mess with me.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting, because I think I'm a very confident person, and I'm not confident because I'm hiding some deep dark secrets.
Yeah.
I'm not that interesting, to be honest. But I think I'm confident because I've spent a lot of time working on myself, and because of the jobs I've done, I've always been up for people to criticize me. So I've lived with a lot of criticism. Right. So there's two ways that can go. Either it can eat away at the person that you are, or the person I am, or I go, do you know what? I'm okay with that. You can have that thought or that feeling or that comment. That's okay. As long as, if it's too harsh, I will say, do you know, actually, I'll probably just laugh it off, or I'll say that's a bit rude. But I think, you know, you do jobs where people are openly critical of what you do and how you do it, that it does build a resilience. So the confidence comes from a resilience of, if you do something from a good place, and I'm being quite general, but, you know, if you do things because you believe it's the right thing to do, and yes, we can argue what is the right thing, you know, but for me, if I think, right, I'm doing this because I really want that person to be safe and well, then I'm going to do that. And it might be against A, B, and C, but I can't go home and sleep tonight if I feel that person's going to be at risk. So I'm going to do that. And it's going to upset you, but I'm okay with that, because that's not the right thing. So because I used to do that every day, I kind of got used to being like overly critical, or saying things like, quite common, oh, you know what Louise is like. So I get that a lot. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Yeah. So yeah, it's the same thing. So, but I think it's very difficult, because people say things to me quite often like, oh, it's all right for you because you're confident. But confidence isn't something that you are born with it. You spend a lot of time people ripping it away from you.
Yes.
But I think that's a bit of a cop-out, if I'm truly honest. I don't think everybody, whatever personality type you are, you need to be working on yourself and not hiding behind something unless you need to, or that you're feeling vulnerable, or you need to go to support. But I think a lot of people I've heard will say, oh, it's all right for Louise to speak publicly because it's Louise.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, but I had to get there. So it's overcoming that, because at some point I had no choice.
Yes.
So, you know, if you have little choice, you kind of just get on with it. I think the more choice sometimes we give people, the more cop-out they use. And I don't mean that as a criticism, because I think, oh, I don't have to do it, therefore I won't. But sometimes the less choice sometimes is better, because people just go, right, I'll give it a go. And as long as that's done well, and if they mess up, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's about saying, just give it a go. And if you're terrified, that's okay. You can talk to people about how they feel about stress and distress. You can talk to people about these things, and it's okay that they don't get it perfect. And my mantra is, it won't be perfect, it'll be great.
Oh, perfect. You've got some great sayings, you know.
Yeah,
There's a little book I should be writing all this down and turn it into a book at some point.
Because everything should be perfect, like the perfect car, the perfect house, the perfect hair, the perfect this, the perfect that. Yeah. Nothing is perfect, and we shouldn't be aiming for that. We should just be aiming to feel great about it, as great as we can at that time with what we've got. And I remember saying that to my daughter Jen, who got married. I said, look, it won't be perfect, it'll just be great, Jen. You know, there'll be things that don't go well, and there was, but you know, it was a great day.
Yeah.
And I think it's all to do with attitude, isn't it? You know, you go with a good attitude. And so even if it doesn't work, it's going to be great, because you're going to learn something from it. And I think, and I'm not saying I'm like this every day, but I try and come back to it as often as I can. I'm not happy, you know, kind of optimist every single day of my life, but I try and come back to okay, today's maybe not such a good day, but tomorrow I'm just going to kind of maybe think about what I could do to make that better. And sometimes it can be like meetings like with yourself at Collaboration Global. I mean, the meeting at the meeting we had today at Clubhouse was just great, because you just listen to these people, and you get little snippets of things. You think, oh, that's great. And then when you go and describe that to someone, so if you learn to, like, the thing that the description you were doing about, you know, kind of the military way that we've done management, I then went and told them, and I went, well, I know this woman called Jill, and she runs Collaboration Global, and she knows loads of stuff, and she told me this. So it's quite interesting, because obviously, you know, I'm based in the north of Scotland, that all these people get mentioned, and like nobody knows who you are. And I go, well, I know these people. And like, where are they? And I go, they're everywhere.
Yeah, they're in the cyberspace. Yeah. They think you make them up, Louise. I'd be careful if I were
It's like an imaginary friends. It's what it is.
It's who you talk to late at night when no one's listening.
Yeah. So people hiding in the cupboard anyway. But
I love your attitude is so refreshing, because one of the things we say at Collaboration Global is there's no right or wrong. All right. Anyone that says this is so is usually a scientist who, like, 6 weeks later, another scientist will blow it out of the water, or people think it's so because it's historical, and you think, well, who wrote that bit of history?
Yeah,
maybe it's not so. So there is no right or wrong. There's only shades of grey. So when you come to things where they are a little bit different, and you celebrate the differences, it's you know, that's the perfect way to be. And exactly what you were saying about it will be great. When our daughter got married a couple of years ago, And she's like, oh, I hope this goes right, I hope that goes right. I said, whatever happens, I said, even if you have an unmitigated disaster, which you won't, but it will be great fodder for the stories afterwards. We're going to love telling that story.
Yeah,
so it's all those little things that you kind of, it doesn't matter if it goes wrong. It's just, you're giving it your best shot.
Yeah.
And you say, as you say, you learn from it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I love your attitude. I'm writing down lots of these little nuggets. They'll come back to haunt you at some point. Okay, so 8-year-old was different and quirky and unique. And then you grew up and you probably had, like most of us, a succession of jobs that you went, oh, I don't like that very much. You've landed in a job now that I think is so important and is so needed at this time, which probably wouldn't have existed 15, 20 years ago. Tell us a little bit about the charity that you work for.
So as you know, Jill, I work for a charity called Absafe, and we deliver health and safety education for children and young people, vulnerable groups, young offenders, and we do some work with kids overseas, particularly in Kenya and Ghana. So, so we do, ultimately what we want to do is save people's lives. That's it. So anything that I do has to have an outcome. It's like, if I can learn something here that will help somebody else, whether that's the kids we work with, or like I was telling you today that, I worked with some on the call that we were at earlier, that I worked with some old people, and I was telling them about cybersecurity. And the idea is that it's set up a bit like the Crystal Maze. We have rooms that we do certain topics in. So we've got a bedroom that we talk about mindfulness and well-being and try and tell kids they're brilliant, and a kitchen that we talk about kitchen safety and inhalation of products and what to do if there's an emergency, and a bed and a living room that we do fire safety in. So we look at what that might look like, because people just think fires are like hot, but actually they're very noisy and very dark. And we look at egress plans, rail safety, cyber safety, road safety, outdoor safety, and water safety. So kids come and we do a round robin, and we do information in sets. So they usually get 8 sets in their time with us, and in that we cover all those things. And then we ask them a question at the end: have you learned something today that will save your life? Have you learned something today that saves other somebody else's life? And we have like a 98% response that's a yes. We know the kids that put no. But yeah, because I'm going to put no. We were like, it's okay, you can put no. It doesn't put me up or down, So that's kind of what we do, and we're a very small team. We're a very committed team, and we work very hard together because we want to ensure that we can pass on information that might make a young person think twice about doing a thing, whether that's jumping in a reservoir, or they've dropped their ball on a railway track and they're going to go and get it. We want them just to think, because we don't tell kids don't do it, because as you know, I'm a bit of a red button person myself. Don't press that red button, I'm probably going to press it. So, and I think that's probably where the naughtiness comes in, and why it probably suits me quite well to work with kids that maybe are a little bit naughty. So that's what we do, and we do it, and we'll do it with anybody, anywhere, just to spread the word. And a bit like you kind of get involved in things and situations and just think that's okay, because if it's going to let a group of kids hear that they're great, then I'm going to do it. And so we will work with anybody, really. And it does get us into a bit of trouble sometimes, because my trustees will go, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, what I thought I'd do is just talk to some kids in Kenya about mental well-being. And they're like, why? And I went, why not? So I kind of do that stuff a little bit, because why not? I have the skill set. It takes an hour of my time, and why not? And I'm quite happy to do an hour in my own time for it. So or we'll work with a group of kids that maybe are struggling, or families. So we're just about to do a bit of work with Home Starts. We're going to work with some vulnerable families just around health and safety around the house. So we were quite versatile for such a small team, really.
So have you got any equivalent charities that do what you do in other parts of the country? Or?
No, I don't know about the UK, England or Wales. I know nobody does what we do at Absafe. There is somebody called the Risk Factory that does it in the Borders. That's just between Edinburgh and Glasgow, but they get statutory funding from the government. They're bigger, like they're a massive warehouse, but we're very much a personal approach, and we're very small. So nobody really does what we do in the way that we do it. And we're very, we're a team of 3 really. Wow. We'd run it on with volunteers and who are fabulous. And without them, we couldn't do what we do. But we're very, a bit like yourself, is that our families are now invested. So
you roped them all in.
Everybody's been roped in for something. So, I mean, and interestingly, I'm like, oh yeah, I know your friend. Don't they do that? Yeah, we'll get them here. So not only do we have a group of fabulous volunteers, our families, bless them, are now invested their whole spare time sometimes in
whether they want to or not.
Yeah, whether they want to or not, whether they come and bring a screwdriver to fix something or mow the grass outside, or Stu, my husband, has his own first aid business. He's a paramedic, but he does a first aid business, and he gave us some free first aid training. But then he also gave the men's shed some first aid training, so they came and helped us with a build. So it's almost like a barter system. So I said, could you help us build this boat? And they went, yes. So then we got them some free first aid training from Stu. Then they got a heart start machine. So basically all this happened now, and they've got a machine that's set up now at the men's shed, which is just around the corner. So I love stuff like that. Yes. So it's almost like a barter. I'll give you a chicken if you give me, a piece of bread. Yes. So we're very much like that. Well, if you do that for me, I'll do that for you. So we've got I suppose the object is that we're trying to move to different premises so we can do that more. Right. Because what I'd like to have is like a hub place where that other charities can come and we can barter.
Yes.
And I think that's definitely the way forward for us as a charity, because because you get services that you don't have in your existing team, but also you learn from other charities as well. And because we're unique, we're not really stepping on anybody's toes, particularly because nobody does what we do. But
you're all on the same side, so you're not treading on anyone's toes, you're just helping people. So if somebody's in a charity and goes, oh no, we do that, then they shouldn't be in the charity industry.
But it happens more than you think, actually, Jill. But it's quite interesting. So we had we met with some police liaison officers, probably by accident. That's how most of my life is, and so that's how we got to work with young offenders in Parliament. And so one of the police liaisons is called Nick, and she's like, I'm looking for premises to run my youth group. And I went, I'll just use this. She went, really? I went, yeah, just use it. So they have it on a Wednesday night for free because she doesn't get any funding. They just come for 2 hours, use the premises, tidy up, lock it up, done. And and she can have that space, and the space is perfect for what she needs. So we're very much, just use this. We're not using it. It's just a bit of heating. We can cover that cost. And then, they do little things for us. We were doing a food bank appeal, so they got involved with that. So we were able to give another charity a whole load of food. So you kind of do all these things where you just get connected and kind of pay it forward. So
you are collaboration personified, aren't you? It's what we call CIA, collaboration in action. Oh. You're getting it.
Yeah.
Do you like that?
I love that a lot. Yeah, I do want a badge. Yeah.
And when you kind of also the potential is there when you've worked with lots of different charities as well, and maybe you want bigger premises, that's when you can go to Fred down the road who has got the big barn or whatever it is, and you've still got that community that you're growing because of all this, I'll do this for you if you do that for me. They can all come together and have a hand in getting the bigger premises as well. So that's laying all the foundations, aren't you? It's brilliant.
Yeah, so that's the future plan. And there's a place just around the corner which is actually opposite the men's shed, and it's an old sports hall that's not been used. I'm really trying hard for them to give me a cost, and I'm like, please give me a cost, because it would be perfect. And because it has showering facilities in there, then we can actually offer it to maybe charities that need those for kids. So I'm already thinking about that. So that's kind of the next. I'm literally stalking. I do like to stalk people a little bit, Jill. But I'm stalking this poor man called Mike, and I bet he thinks the worst thing I've ever done in my life is met with Louise, because she never leaves me alone.
Well, just do what she says and you'll be fine.
That's what I feel like saying to him. Just give me a price, Mike. It'll be fine.
Yeah, then I'll go away and I'll leave you alone for a little while. Till next time.
Till a week, yeah.
Talking about leaving people alone, you're talking about water safety and other things. Two people that spring to mind immediately in our community is David Liddell, who works extensively with the Scouts. He's a mortgage advisor himself, but he's every minute of his spare time is with the Scouts. And they go sailing a lot, so he will know an awful lot about water safety. And also Maria Azcona, that's her day job, is health and safety. So I'm sure amazing. You can pick their brains, and I'm sure they wouldn't be adverse to popping up to Aberdeen or doing the old Zoom thing. But
yeah, great.
Yeah, I love it when people kind of come into the community and I go, oh, you need to talk to that person and that person, and they totter off, and then before you know it, it's a little project bubbling under, and things are happening, and new businesses are being created, and all sorts of things happen. It's brilliant. So in your dreams, money being no object, where do you see Absafe going?
So I would like to create a hub, particularly in the north of Scotland, where charities come and we share ideas. I would like to offer what we do in the UK. So I would like to become UK based, because I think not only what we offer is great, but the skill set, my very small team, but they're very clever. And the passion they have, you can't buy. Yeah. So, I mean, Ken, who's like my Linda, but you know, I don't want to call him he's not, he's my colleague. Yeah. In a way, you know, I work with him every day. He is just so passionate about what we do that I couldn't pay for that. Like I couldn't buy that. I couldn't buy that in. Yeah. And he absolutely loves working with the kids. I mean, he's a gift. Yeah. And the reason I got employed, he used to intern before I actually worked there. And I met him once before we went into lockdown. And so when this job came available, I rang him and I went, would you like a job? And he just finished his degree. And he actually went on and completed his degree, because I had a chat with him. I said, please don't give up on your degree, Ken. Yeah. Please stick at it. Please, you'll regret it. You've got 5 months. I basically said, suck it up, get it done. Anyway, he completed it. So, and now he has a degree, which is great. And he did really well. So I think we have the ability to really influence kids' lives in a way that they don't get anymore, because it's just stuff that we don't do. And we are so adaptable. So somebody could ring us and say, look, we've got a real problem we had this with water safety. Can you go and give a talk on you know, the risks of water or not being safe in water? And I went, yeah, sure. So we can kind of like make it for older kids or younger kids, for adults, for families. And I think the scope of that keeps us very interested in what we do. So we're not doing the same thing all of the time. So I think if I had a wand, it would be to replicate what we do for the UK in the way that we do it, but not in a corporate way that becomes top down, and not in a way that I don't support my staff. So I'm probably the worst at not taking a lunch, just because I'm not used to it, which is naughty, I know, but I wouldn't tolerate that in my staff. And on Monday, because they'd worked really hard, we took the volunteers out and took them paintballing. It was very cheap. And we actually went paintballing against my husband's team, and they absolutely beat us off. Honestly, I'm covered in bruises. I mean, it wasn't a big thing, but it's really to celebrate and say to staff, you know, I want work to be a fun place for you to be, and I want you to really feel appreciated, but I also want us just to kind of just be human beings as well. And I wouldn't want to lose that sense if the company got bigger. Yeah. I very much want to be grounded in, you know, we've had a very busy week, take Wednesday afternoon off. Yes. And I never want to lose control of that, because I don't want somebody coming in saying, right, okay, well, let's do, you know, let's tick that off, or and I know there's, you know, I am a leader and a manager, so I know there's some management stuff that needs to be done. But what I love about the way Absafe is that we are very much people focused, not only for the education we deliver, but the people that deliver with it. And I think it's really important that, you know, that when we become global, and I'm saying that with a smile on my face, or UK based, that we don't lose that sense of, it's important that we look after people who look after people. So I mean, I really would like to be UK wide, because I think what we do is brilliant. Absolutely. And I think it's a necessity, rather than it's a shame it has to be a charity rather than something that's given naturally for all of these youngsters. And again, you know, once you are UK wide and moving on towards worldwide, it's the culture that you build now, and identifying how that happens,
and understanding that, you know, we do this because these are our values, we do that because these are our behaviors, and we do that because this is the culture that we work to. And then when everyone gets introduced into that space, one person at a time, then they get absorbed into that culture. And if you were to triple in size overnight, the two other areas would be absorbed into that strong culture, because it would be like, that's a nice safe place to be. That's a place that, you know, when I was in the corporate world, they didn't talk like that, they didn't act like that. I want to be over there in that space. And for me, that's the kind of, I mean, we've got somebody in our community called Ben Drury, and he's known as the culture guy, and what he is trying to get out there is for businesses to not be top down, not be you know, the director is autonomous. It's about this self-organizing organization where everyone is as passionate about the end results and the end goals as the person that's paying the wages, you know, and they kind of would be so excited about it. They'd be talking about it Friday night down the pub after they finished a busy week because they had such a great week. Yeah, and they become your best salespeople. They become, you know, everybody in the organization becomes your best raving fan, your advocate, because they're having such a good time, because that culture is intrinsic in everything that you do.
Yeah, I mean, we're rebranding because our brand at the moment is Heart. It doesn't make sense anyway. So we've got a new brand. I don't know anyway. And so I mean, I literally did it because I was driving somewhere and I was listening to a podcast, and I do this. I come in next day and I go, I've had an idea, and the staff are going, here she goes. Yeah, they'll
take a little step back going,
yeah, and they'll go, oh, what is it? So right, I think we should rebrand. And they were like, yeah, we agree. And kids were like, we don't get your branding. So we're like, right, we need to rebrand. And somebody said it's not called, I'll go back to this very quickly, but, and so we started off an idea. What do we want? What do we want people to know from this brand? And we want them to know that we're safety warriors, and we want to know that what we do, because our brand doesn't tell people what we do. So we went through this process, but it wasn't, and I think I've talked to you about this before, it wasn't very corporate. It was very much, what do we feel about it? How do we feel when we see that? Yeah. We kept it really from an emotional perspective. And interestingly, we've got now a final brand, and we're launching it in December. It's great. But it's interesting because I showed it, one of the trustees said to me yesterday, well, it's not very corporate, is it? And I went, yes, it's very corporate. It just doesn't look as corporate as other corporate stuff. But just because
to be corporate though, is that
no? So like one of the shield, because we've got like a safety warrior with it says Absafe. It's brilliant. And it's in red, amber, green colours, which is our risk assessment matrix we use. We use red, amber, green a lot.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I said, well, yeah, that's corporate, because that's what we want them. And the strapline is inspiring, you know, saving lives and inspiring communities. That's what our strapline is.
And that's
but that's what we do. I said, of course it's corporate. And I said, I don't understand why, but I think that homes in on your point, is the corporate world have a very, very narrow perspective what the corporate world should be. And actually, why can't we be safety warriors? Why do we always have to be corporate in a suit with a nice car and all that kind of stuff? Well, actually, no. And that's not who we want to be. But the reason I'm telling that story was a bit about that, but also because everybody got involved in it. So
nice.
What I love about this logo is like my husband, Stu, my kids, Ken's partner, Shannon, like everybody that came. And then somebody like last minute, and we meeting with Eddie, who's actually from Ghana. He actually came to the site and he's blown away. Nice. And he said, well, you should really maybe put that in capitals. And I went, oh. So it's like, it's a great idea. So the strapline wasn't in capitals, now it is in capitals. So we've literally had an international influence on this logo, which is, it makes it all the most special. But like Charlie and Tash, everybody had an input on it. Colours, how it's going to look, had the font, and everybody that came to visit us over the last 2 months has had an opinion on it. So this is a really global logo, because it wasn't.
What's nice about it as well is most corporates, if they wanted to rebrand, would go to a branding specialist and go, this is our vision and mission that nobody's read for the last 10 years. Can you do us a logo? And they would consider that their brand and that their culture and that their identity. And actually one person has designed it who doesn't even work in the environment.
Yeah. And we did the opposite. Everybody had an input. Lovely. And we took feedback from everybody and we changed it. But like, so I just love that last minute change from Eddie from Ghana, who went, I think that probably could be in capitals. And I went, perfect. It's a great idea. So last minute changes. My poor design company, who were Jasmine, who were lovely, they just must just roll their eyes. Here she goes again. But so we've completed it. So I just wanted to say that, you know, when you look at collaboration, you can collaborate on everything. you know.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think we probably just say, oh, we shouldn't really, you can collaborate on most things that you do, and you should. But even if you disregard somebody's, or not disregard, but disregard that doesn't quite fit, then it does get you to reevaluate what you're thinking anyway. So it works in that positive sense, doesn't it? Where you go, actually, does it need to be in capitals? Oh, I don't know. Let's have a look at it. So I think those things, and some of the stuff we went, oh, that's not going to work because.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what I think people should really understand about collaboration. Sometimes it's not about the things that we take. It's almost the things that we reevaluate and not dismiss, but go, not sure that's going to quite work at this point in time.
Also, I think the intention behind the collaboration is really important as well, because I've been part of collaborations and we've asked people for their input and they've given their opinion, and it's from a perspective of I'm right, you're wrong. Oh no, you can't do that, that's ridiculous, you should do it that way. I'm like, well, why? And they haven't got a foot in the door of it being successful. They haven't got a foot in the door of it turning out for the right purpose. They just want to throw their weight around and give their opinion because, you know, they feel like they're, you know, in charge or better than somebody else, or like I say, it's the ego speaking. So it's very interesting that everyone that's contributed to your logo has a big fat foot in the door in that they really, it means something to them. They're loving it before it's been created. They're creating it with love, and they've realized that the old one might not work, but this one is going to be amazing. Now, even if to an outsider who's maybe a branding specialist and does it for, you know, Richard Branson or whatever, and they look at it and go, oh no, I don't like that, that's kind of irrelevant, because if you love it, it will be a successful brand.
Yeah. And you know what, I'm like, I don't care, it's great, it's brilliant. And you know, we can actually order, which is more exciting, we can actually order a mascot as well. Oh, cool. So the mascot we're going to order is actually, I mean, this is irrelevant, but we can actually get it in the same colors and stuff. So we're really excited about that as well. I mean, we get excited about really simple stuff. We're a really simple bunch of people who get excited by really small things. So our aspirations in life, I think we've discussed it before, aren't about getting lots of money and all this kind of stuff, but it's actually just, I mean, every day if I can turn up to work and be happy, I mean, that's there's no payment for that. I mean, obviously I need paying because I need to pay stuff, but you know, to do that, but actually do a job that actually I'm very happy in, that I'm very proud of, and allows people to grow and develop. I mean, it's a gift of a job, and the best job I've ever had. And I had to be 48 to get here. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, and this was by luck, I suppose, in some ways, the way I got to this job. So I just think it's all that time you spend sometimes in jobs that you don't like. And I know why people have to do that sometimes. You have to work. And I get that. I mean, I've done it. So that's not a criticism. But the opportunity for me to work in what I do, I'm passionate about what I do, and to really to save kids' lives or adults' lives by just kind of just having a chat with them, I mean, it's just amazing. It's amazing.
This is always what amazes me when you see charities that are based in London. And they've got these headquarters that look really all singing, all dancing. I'm like, couldn't they just have a shed in, you know, a borough outside? And then you find out that their CEO is being paid £250,000 a year, and you're like, does he really need all that money?
No, I run my charity for a lot less than that. But interestingly, I just want to say we have porta cabins, so we have like just a posh shed. So I have to. That's why I was smiling. So in the winter, we constantly walk around in 3 layers.
Yeah,
and then we put the heating on, and then by 4 o'clock we're all too hot. But you can't turn the heating on because it just gets really cold. So so I'm laughing because we literally have a posh shed. We have porta cabins. So
there you go. There you go. But you know what? At some point that will be a building, and that will have central heating, and you'll be so grateful. And you'll still remember to turn the heating off when you don't need it, because you'll be very mindful of what it was like beforehand.
No, I'm very tight with money as well to do with the charity. Yes. So I'm like, turn the heating off. We don't need the hot water on. No, turn it off.
Excellent. So listen, we've heard about your function and why you have Absafe, but tell us a success story. Tell us something where you've helped a youngster and it's made a difference to them.
I can tell you something that happened not yesterday, the day before. So we had a bunch of kids in, and I mean, I did tell you the story about the boy, but that's not the story. But we had a boy that came to us that we didn't know beforehand, which is quite right and good, that he had some difficulties. And he really struggles to maintain in school. He's only in primary school. And he quite often used to get excluded. So he came, he came yesterday and he picked up his phone. So I just said to him, we have like an instruction thing and they do a quiz. I said, look, would you mind just popping your phone back in your bag? And he told me to F off, basically. And I went, okay. So I said to the teacher, you're probably going to have to go and chat to him because it's not my business. I don't know what strategies they use. And I'm very, very aware of stepping out. And it kind of toed and frowned all day, actually. But what was the success for me was he was able in the end to apologise. I mean, it got a bit complicated. He ended up apologising to a volunteer he was pretty verbally abusive to, who took it on it. And she was just like, that's fine. But he was able to stay all day. And for me, that was amazing because at 9:15 in the morning, I didn't think he would get to 9:30.
Yeah.
And he did all of the sets, which was 8. He also stayed for lunch and ate his lunch, which sometimes he doesn't do. And even though at the end he was very much like, this was rubbish, which was fine. And I went, that's okay. That's okay. But he contributed in every set. He talked in every set and he behaved in every set. And for me, that was a success story. And we've had another story of a similar, a boy came who normally runs away. Yeah. And he was a selective mute. So he hadn't spoken in school for 9 weeks.
Wow.
And he came to Absafe and he was a bit quiet, which is fine because sometimes it can be a bit weird when they come in. And by the end of it was yap. So the teacher said, has he been chatting? I went, yeah, we haven't shut him up. And she said, we've not heard him speak. So he hadn't actually spoken in school for, I think they've been in school 9 weeks.
Wow.
So that's
the difference, isn't it, between that environment that's you have to go, it's demanding, it's, there's routines, you have to do this, you have to sit down here, you have to stand up there, you're allowed to go out, you've got to come back in, and then your thing, which is a different energy entirely, that they were able to feel safe about. I bet that the first child that you just told us about, I bet you've planted that seed now.
Yeah, absolutely. But he was. At the end, we were just laughing. We're like, yeah, it's not a problem. And I think because we were like, yeah, whatever, it's okay. I mean, he behaved relatively well, actually. So it wasn't that we were tolerating poor behaviour. He just literally behaved really well. But I think what struck me about the second story I was telling you about, he actually said it was the best day of his life.
Oh.
Now, I'm not an overly emotional person, but even I tell this story, yeah. And I just, at the end of the day, I went, right, everybody go home. We've achieved whatever we needed to achieve, like everybody go home early. Because that, to me, is a statement that we have made that young boy have a great day. And if nothing else, that's it. If he learns, that's it. I said to the staff, go home. We've mic dropped, we're out the building, turn the lights off, we're off.
Brilliant. I mean, Louise has left the building.
Yeah, it's a bit like, yeah, I mean, look, I didn't leave the building, but anyway, but yeah, they did. Like, you're going to do a great job. But and I think that's the point, is that we want to make sure that when kids come to us, that they get a different experience they do at school. And it's not a criticism of school or a comment on how schools are at all. They do an amazing job. But I think for us, it's little things like that. You think, right, okay, we can definitely work with another school tomorrow, because we, in any job, the little victories where you see these little wins are the big things. The big wins, you're like, well, okay, but the little wins like this are the big wins sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But for some kid to say that, and like for other kids that don't read out or are a little bit shy, because we'll read stuff for them, we'll go, it's okay, we can get that, we can read that for you. So we never put kids on the spot like that.
Yeah.
Or we make sure that everybody's in. So if you see a kid hanging about, we're always like, come on, like, you come and sit here, it'd be fine, and all those kind of things. And I think that's where it wins, and it wins because of the culture that we've provided for the kids to come and have a bit of fun. And we don't let them run riot, by the way.
No,
but we want them to feel, I think what I say to my staff is, we want every kid to feel a sense of value at some point in the day, if not all through the day, that every day that they get a reward. That's really good, you read that really well, oh my goodness, aren't you really clever, or what a great thing you just did. And we want every kid to have a sense of value and worth during the time that they're with us. So that's the add-on from just the educational stuff that we do with them.
Wow, that's amazing. I remember my time when I used to be a primary school teacher about 100 years ago. And it is that moment when you kind of get that connection with that child, and you've made a difference. I remember one kid looked at me once, he went, I wish you were my mum. I went, oh, come here, we're not supposed to hug, but let me give you a hug. So sweet. And so many times when you know children that have been severely abused and they're in school and they've got a education plan that everyone's supposed to know, and you've got this little label on this 8-year-old that's like, he's a runner, you know, if he gets upset in class, he'll just leg it out of the school. And where my classroom was, there was this it was kind of like a corridor to the rest of the school, so a couple of other classes north of me. So this runner would come from his class, and basically the teacher couldn't leave her class, so she'd ring up the headmistress over the back and say, he's gone again. So she's okay, but he would come and he would just come and sit in my class, and he'd look at me and I went, over there, yeah, fine. And he'd go, because there was no pressure in my class, because he was coming to the younger children, and he could sit with them and so the headmistress would walk past and look at me and like, yeah, it's okay, and carry on going. And it's just that, a lifeline. That's all they're looking for, is a lifeline to be accepted somewhere without them having to give anything up of themselves. So I think what you're doing is absolutely incredible, and what beautiful stories that, you know, I can see why you enjoy what you do, and if you've got that team around you as well,
they are brilliant. And I have to definitely credit them 100%. And I do all the time. Like Ken said to me, can I go home and do this editing? And I said, do you need me? And I said, Ken, I always need you, but please go home and complete that, because I know we're doing your head in. So you go home and have some peace and quiet. So, but yeah, I always need you, Ken. Don't leave me ever. But yeah, it's a great team. And yeah, you can definitely tell that we're all there for one purpose, really, is just to make sure that we can keep kids safe and save their lives. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I think I was saying it I was doing some recording earlier today, saying that I do feel like we've failed the younger generation in the way, the state of the planet we've left it in, the economy that it is at the moment, the politics that's breaking down. And, you know, we need to help each and every single, you know, young person to identify who they are, what their aim is for their life, what legacy they want to leave, but just to kind of acknowledge them. And you know, they've got to struggle with social media and so many things, and the stories that you've told us about how they view peer pressure and all of those things that are going on that we never had to put up with in our life. So it's, you know, don't ever underestimate how important your role and your charity is. And I'm sad that it has to be a charity, and I can't believe you haven't got funding, but maybe Collaboration Global can be part of working out what we can do about that. There must be a way that we can support you as well.
That'd be the positive side of that, and that's why I'm really excited to be part of your group, is that because we're not statutory funded, we can actually do more things. So for me, yeah, it would be easier, but actually it's better because I have more freedom to work with more kids. So, I mean, if we can get, obviously we're working out plans to make us self-funding in terms of creating businesses and stuff, but actually what it allows us to do is work more immediately with kids in a more dynamic way and more often. So there is that joy. I mean, there's obviously the pain of you know, making sure that we can fund it for another year, but that is a joy for me, because I'm not, people say like, oh, you can't do that because you need to do this to meet that, and I go, actually, I'm just going to go and speak to some kids in Kenya. So awkward. Yeah, bye. But yeah, so that is some of the joy, and that's why we're really passionate about working with what you've created, Jill, which is fabulous, and move that on so we can become self-funding, so that we can kind of do more work that just meets the needs of kids, not meet the needs of statistics.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's someone else I've just realised I need to introduce you to. Somebody who helped some children, it wasn't in Ghana, but it was, I think, next door to Ghana. I can't remember the country now. And he gave his last £40 to send over football equipment to his country, back to where he came from. And he then followed on some 6 months later, and they'd started a small little local football team to keep the children amused and teamwork and all the rest of it. And within, I think it was 2 years, it had become a national football team. And within 5, it was an international football team worth millions of pounds.
I love it.
So yeah, you've got to have a conversation with this man at the very least. He's very inspiring.
I would love
and he might give you loads of ideas of what you could do as well. Because you know, all you need is a little amount, and it's off you go. And then providing there's those people around you, and that's what collaboration is all about: getting people together, because together we're stronger, and we can work miracles. Just before we go, tell us a little bit about Louise. Please tell me you're not 100% working on Absafe the whole time. What's your life like outside of Absafe? Tell us about your family, your hobbies, your loves.
So I've got 4 kids. They're aged between 27 and 20. I have 3 dogs that I'm about to walk after we finish this. So I've had to buy a head touch. It's not a great look. Yeah. And I'm one of those flashy balls because I've lost 2 balls. I spend a lot of time just chatting to other people. So I'm also a practicing Buddhist. I don't want to say that. So
we've got about 5 in the community now.
Yeah. So I try and be the best person I can for other people. I spend a little bit of time with people. I like spending time on my own. I like going to the theatre. I like going to the cinema. I went to watch a band last night because we have quite a lot of bands that come up to Aberdeen. I like doing things when people say, do you fancy doing that? And I go, yeah, I'm one of those people. Yeah, okay, I'll try that. Yeah, I'll try that. So I try and be the best person I can be for people. I try and be a good friend. I try and be an okay wife. I mean, you'd have to speak to Stu about it, but I'm okay. I'm sure there are improvements that could be made. Well, I'm sure. I'm sure there isn't. Yeah, probably. So that's what I kind of spend my time doing. So between all of that, I took up art. Actually, this is one of my new passions. Is I took up art when the lockdown happened. So I used to be a member of an art group, which I sadly can't be a member of anymore because it's in the day. So so in a bit of spare time, I'll try and pretend I'm an artist, which I'm not, but I do pretend quite well. Oh yeah, I'm just doing a bit of art. Yeah, but I absolutely love it. And I think it's doing things that you love, even if it's just for a small amount of time, really does help your mental well-being, really. So that's kind of what I do. So I'm generally quite busy and do different things. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I wish you lived closer. That's all I can say. Aberdeen are lucky to have you, because all the things that you mentioned that you like doing, I'm like, yeah, I could do that with you. That would be such fun. It's been an absolute joy talking to you, Louise. I'm so pleased that you are part of Collaboration Global, and I have no idea yet in my head how we're going to be able to support and help you, and vice versa, because I know you won't be happy doing it all one direction. But it will come, and when it comes, if I can see it in my head, I know it's going to happen. So we'll work something out. But there's loads of great people for you to meet in the meantime and support them, and they will support you as well in any way they can. If somebody was interested in finding out more about Absafe, whether it be to get support for themselves or whether to help you in any way, what's the easiest way to get hold of you?
Probably email me direct. I quite like the direct approach. So they can go on a website, which is just absafe.org.uk, or just email me at louise@absafe.org.uk. Just give me an email, and then we can arrange to speak or whatever works for them. But the direct approach is always good. Just so they have a personal touch and it's not just an anonymous website.
Yeah, that's cool. Absafe, ABSAFE, presumably.
That's correct, yeah.
And why is it called Absafe?
Aberdeen Safety.
Oh, there you go. Yes, of course. It's logical once you say it like that.
Yeah, it took me a while. I was like, why? Mabs.
Aberdeen Safety.
Aberdeen Safe. It used to be called originally Aberdeen Safer Trust.
Okay. Absafe sounds more fun.
Yeah. And it definitely looks well on the new logo. So that's good.
Well, thank you for being part of this podcast today. We will spread it out far afield for people to learn more about you, but also about Absafe too. And if you're interested in coming to see Louise at any time, meet her in person, sort of, on Zoom. we have our once a month session at Collaboration Global. It's always the last Tuesday of the month, apart from December when most of us are a little bit busy. So last Tuesday of the month between 3 and 5, that's UK time. You can find a link on our website, collaborationglobal.org, or if you can look us up on Eventbrite, that's where our link is, so you can book on. It doesn't cost anything to be a guest, and you get to say hi to Louise in person. So my name's been Jill Tyner. You've been listening to Being Human Hidden Depths, and thank you again, Louise, for being a fabulous guest. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak on your podcast. And actually, what you're doing is brilliant.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Take care, my darling. See you soon.